Welcome to the SCL! Today is week number 1 of the Smite Console League, joined here by the console sensation himself. It's Ryan Aggro Bailey. My name is Tom Battinger. We're going to get into the games right away. Big news here already. Obviously, you guys know the SoaR roster, but Strictly Business, a long-time organization, they're going to join the league as well.
Yeah, really exciting. They're picking up the Checo is the new black is what they went by during that relegation period. Of course, now they have to face off against Michael Checo, who's on Elevate, so they needed a new name anyways. And it's going to be for Strictly Business underneath that organization. A couple new orgs joining the SCL, always very exciting.
As we get into picks and bans for our first matchup, SB will be on the left-hand side, and as I said, this is not a new organization. What can you tell us about Strictly Business?
I mean, they've been around for a little bit. They come from the console side of things, so no surprise to see them jump into the SCL here to join up with these very talented Challenger Cup players.
Thoth will be the first ban out of SB. We'll see Zeus take a seat from SoaR. Sylvana's also going to be banned out. So a lot of similar stuff to the PC side of things. Yep. As the Ratatasker ban comes out as well. Strictly Business, they're looking for their first pick.
Yeah, it could go for a couple different things here. Like you mentioned, the usual bans are what we've seen. The Zeus, the Ratatasker, Sylvanas, and Thoth as well. It's going to be Ymir right off the bat here for Strictly Business. Could be a flex pick opportunity. Could go to Reminisst in the jungle. Could go to Forger Vulcan in the support role. It could also go in the solo lane as well.
I think it's very interesting. Ymir, I don't think it's a bad pick. I don't think it's a terrible pick. It's just an interesting first pick. I think there are perhaps some more impactful, more ambiguous characters to choose over Ymir. But SoaR go for the Susano and the Medusa.
Yeah, so that's going to be in the jungle there for Kaeydan. Kaeydan moving over from the PC Challenger Cup scene along with the new solo laner for SoaR MedievalDoc. Those are going to be that jungle and solo combination SoaR. And then Zachsy probably for that Medusa in the Hunter role, though we have seen a little bit of Medusa mid in the past. Wouldn't be too surprised to see Shaliber pull that out, though I don't know if that really feels like a Shaliber god to me.
Yeah, Shaliber's much more the traditional mage type guy, I think. Medusa will be a good look wherever she winds up. Apollo likely to line up in the long lane next to the Geb, and they'll be dealing with a Ra in the mid lane, so that solidifies the fact that Zachsy will be that Medusa player.
It's kind of surprised to see Strictly Business immediately kind of show their hand that Ymir is not going to be in that support role and then lock in the Geb. Maybe they were a little bit scared that SoaR was going to take it away themselves, but this really tells SoaR Gaming that it isn't going to be Ymir's support, obviously, because Geb cannot jungle.
Poseidon banned out here by SoaR Gaming next to the Odin and Bacchus and Kepri. So a whole lot of protective players going to be banned out here. Mid lane Poseidon obviously will be banned out. Erlang Shen is the selection for SoaR.
That's probably going to be in the solo lane for StormyRays actually playing support now, and so we could see that in the support role. We know he likes this character, played it a lot during his time in solo before. Wouldn't be surprised to see him lock it up. Excellent long-range setup with that Ra. We've seen it time and time again. Now Erlang Shen does not have that cripple on the pin, so Vulcan is going to be able to backfire, Apollo going to be able to use the moves, Awilix going to be able to jump off Suku, but it is that root and can really, really punish a character like Ymir, who looks like to be going out of the solo lane here.
Awilix really going to work with Strictly Business. You've got Geb, you've got Apollo, even Vulcan has a little bit of a knock-up. Xing on the side of SoaR Gaming will round out their roster. So pretty tanky on the side of SoaR, even tankier for SB.
Yeah, I like both these drafts. I think that the real draft for SoaR really focuses on how well can Shaliber position, how well can he heal the team, and then how on point are his snipes from a distance. Zachsy's going to be bringing some good AoE damage. Susano going to be bringing some good AoE damage, but that single target burst that SoaR is lacking is really squarely on the shoulders of Shaliber with this draft.
Strictly Business versus SoaR. Let's get it going.
And it is going to be Nikwid on this Ymir solo. We've seen a couple of the console solo laners really start to enjoy this Guardian in the solo lane. Wolves was one of the first ones to pull it out quite some time ago, and now Nikwid taking a page out of Wolves' book, going for that Ymir in the solo lane, and it is going to be StormyRays with Erlang Shen for the support role. So like I mentioned, definitely excellent setup in the mid lane for Ra. I think that's why you see it in the support, because he'll spend more time in the middle lane than the solo laner will early on. MedievalDoc just there to be that additional frontline Guardian sort of in-your-face tank.
I'm really expecting Shaliber to come out on top when it comes to this Ra. Shaliber showed us last season that he was really strong playing with players like Chapo and Uzi, taking your spot, honestly, on this SoaR roster, who has completely changed and This is now kind of Shalibur's team. Really once was, I mean, Uzi and Brochacha. Now this kind of belongs to Shalibur, so really has to take up the heavy reins of the squad.
I would say it's between Shalibur and Stormy, the two guys who were on this roster previously. Stormy, a pretty good leader in his own right, and has been around the scene for a long time, knows how to win correctly. Shalibur definitely has a lot of potential here, though I think that he still has to find exactly what his god pool is going to be, because that was the big knock on him last season, was that his god pool was very limited, and we didn't really see him on Raw at all last season. So if this Raw pick works out, that's definitely a sign in the right direction for SoaR.
Yeah, right away I was excited to see his god pool kind of expand. I think Shalibur showed us that he's a good player. He really has the start there. There are some things, mainly god pool, like you said, that we need to see develop over the course of the year. And I think there's going to be a strong look for SoaR. Across the way on SB, I think you look at, teams like, you look at players like Nikwid, and you look at Forger Vulcan, and these guys are a good start. How do you think the entire roster of SB does for the rest of the season?
I mean, they looked pretty good in the relegation period. They were definitely the second best team after my guys coming out of that process. But sometimes we see these teams that look really good against other relegation teams come to the SCL, play against the big boys, and realize that they aren't quite ready yet. But they've got a good amount of experience. Like you mentioned, Nikwid spent a lot of time on Elevate last season rather. Forger Vulcan, a sub for Aware, cousins with Kenshin actually, so knows how those guys did and was able to watch that and sub in for them when needed as well. So if guys like Mr. Teep and Keji can kind of learn from their experience, then Strictly Business could absolutely get off to a good start here. Reminisst as well, didn't mention him, but he came to LAN with Elevate. They didn't have the performance they wanted at the fall finals, but got that ever so important LAN experience.
Yeah, Nikwid's always impressed me by his dedication to the game and the scene. It's sitting in Twitch chat and just kind of memeing along with everybody. Actually, it does show you that, Nikwid's always around in those console streams. He's usually hosting side tournaments that aren't being casted. He'll do it himself so you guys can see the gameplay going on. Just that connection to the scene, showing that much interest in the game. You're going to learn stuff just by proxy, just by being around Smite that often. So you definitely, sometimes it's not all positive, but I think that Nikwid in general, his close proximity to the scene and how much he involves himself with everybody, I think is going to be a positive for him moving forward. And
you see in the solo lane, actually, I was going to bring it up. You were talking about Nikwid, but I'm looking at MedievalDoc here, someone who goes by Medieval on PC, very, very talented player over there, moving over to the console scene. We've seen that sometimes it takes a little bit of time for these PC players to get going once they move over to the controller, but Medieval definitely a pretty experienced player, and he's gone for the Mana Chalice here in the solo lane. That tells me that he expects to get invaded often. He doesn't expect to get that blue buff a whole lot, and is just willing to kind of hold that L for his team, and that tells me that SoaR is going to want to focus that left side of the map and prioritize getting those buffs more so than the right side. I mean, especially when you're the Xing Chen. Xing Chen already has issues going into his jungle and securing his own stuff, and then when you look across the way and see a character like Ymir, I mean, Ymir is probably the go-to Guardian if you want to be able to secure buffs, right? He's got big burst damage with the carpet. Obviously, the ultimate, if you absolutely need to, can do work, and you get the worst situation, you have the freeze. SoaR gonna rotate over their own jungle while SB is invading. There's a big shot over the top from Mr. Teep. Not enough damage, but StormyRays, he's gonna be the first one to fall. Nice meditation coming out from SB to help out just a little bit. Forger Vulcan being chased by Shalibur, and he'll find the last hit of the in-hand, and down goes Forger Vulcan. It's gonna be 1-1 as SB lose their support, but SoaR are the second to score. The three-man freeze there from Nikwid. Wall should be up soon. Kaeydan trying to get the second kill here for SoaR and make it worth it, but Reminisst turns it around on him, and SB, they're the ones walking away with 2 kills in that engagement. Great ultimate over the top by Mr. Teep, set up by an excellent Cataclysm by Forger Vulcan. Gotta give shout out to Shalibur though. The only reason that fight starts to turn in SoaR's way is because he hits a big snipe.
Yeah, big damage coming out from the mid lane, and then it's funny, he starts the party for the side of SoaR with the snipe, and then he gets the kill with a basic attack. So little big to little. But in any case, SB wind up picking up the first blood, so they'll be ahead just a little bit, about 500, pretty much just the first blood bounty. SoaR bite back, and SB for a second time get the kill. I didn't think Nikwid was going to get out of there.
Yeah, Nickwood looked like he was going to get chased down, but he turns around, hits the big three-man freeze, and neither Kaeydan nor Shalaber had their purification beads up because of that excellent Cataclysm from Forger Vulcan that really got that fight started in SB's favor. And that's what you got to be careful of with this composition that SB's drafted is they've got a lot of beads burners. They've got a lot of knockups into that Awilix ult. Awilix can obviously knock you up herself as well. So that's got to be something that SoaR has to be mindful of is whenever they have those purification beads down, you cannot be anywhere near Geb or Vulcan because it can easily set up a pullback in for Reminisst.
I mean, even the Apollo, if he plays it right, Keji can even, you know, start up the knockup. You know, the dash coming out from Apollo does have a knockup component. That dash from Apollo has a lot of things that just people don't realize. The knockup component, I think, more people realize than not, but what people don't realize is the interaction with the passive.
Yeah, it's every target you hit with your dash stack adds a passive stack to Audacity, so you can kind of halfway stack it to tag the wave was so beautiful and then dash through to finish off the wave and immediately have your passive back up to box the enemy ADC, as well as it's a movement speed buff for your team, a movement speed debuff for the enemy team. It's got a lot going for it.
It does so much. The movement speed buff and debuff is ooh, not going to be the case. Reminisst trying the old the bowling ball through the wall. Not going to find the knockup, however. SoaR 3 men strong here in the mid lane will be met with SB's similar strength. This solo lane, Guardian v Guardian. Ymir has a little bit more clear than the Xing, and we discussed how the teams are going to react to that. How do you think these individuals are going to go? Does Nickwood want to fight into the Xing?
Not really. I don't think that he understands that he doesn't have a whole lot of kill potential. You just don't have that burst damage to punch through the HP 5 that Xing has. He's got such great sustain in lane without having a heal in his kit. In fact, Nickwood probably has to be a little bit careful starting right around now whenever that Furious Roar is going to get maxed out, of being poked out a little bit too heavily because he doesn't have any of that innate sustain.
And Xing, of course, the Furious Roar does percent damage, so it doesn't even have to build into the offensive stats.
And that's even better against the Guardian because the Guardian's going to have more HP, which means you're doing more damage to them with that Furious Roar.
Exactly, so certainly a good situation if you're Medieval here. Reminisst being chased a little bit by Stormy, but Stormy should find himself in safety. Just bought a new car.
Did he?
Yeah, got a Charger.
Good for him.
StormyRays making plays all day. Right here on left side, Zachsy get aggressive. Keji in a little bit of trouble. He's going to be safe underneath his tower. Different story for Mr. Stormy, however. Big shot coming out of Shalaber. And right there, Stormy wishes he could drive away, but he can't. Reminisst drives him into the ground. It's the third kill for Strictly Business. SoaR still just have one.
That's just a straight-up numbers advantage for Strictly Business in the middle lane. If Kaeydan is there, then SoaR probably win that fight because of the taunt into the snipe combination from StormyRays and Shalaber. But with going into that 3v2, just a little bit too much damage for Stormy to handle. And remember, he isn't a Guardian in the early game. He doesn't have those really good base stats. He's playing this Warrior. Kaeydan knocked up in the middle lane, not even pulled back in. He's going to die underneath his tower. Reminisst able to pick him up. And again, the number advantage for SB. SoaR not working at quite as well as a unit together as Strictly Business.
3-0-1. Reminisst already very successful here in this game. 8 minutes and 30 seconds on the board, already bringing his team to a 2,000 gold lead, or just shy of it at least. And when I look at that, you know, Reminisst was he's a very quiet person. And last year he was a very quiet player too. Didn't really do too much. He wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly wasn't the type of player to be 3-1 at 9 minutes.
No, when we saw him come to land with Elevate the fall finals, I wasn't impressed. We'll put it that way. It didn't strike me as someone to watch out for in season 4. But Reminisst definitely off to a great start so far. His relegation performances were pretty good throughout. And so it doesn't really surprise me too much, though. I did think that SoaR is probably going to have the edge in this matchup just because of the experience on players like Shalaber and Zachsy and StormyRays. But early on in this game, SB looking pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, Reminisst, like I said, this is a very good turnaround for him. Last season, you know, he had his missteps, but already off to a quick start. And one, if you're going to play Awilix, you want to be off to a quick start. Nickwood, off to a poor start, misses everything in his kit.
Kaeydan just there to clear the wave, though, so not too much of a big deal. He's not even worried about ganking, but because of this presence on the right-hand side, SP start up this Gold Fury. There's the Vulcan ultimate, but it's not going to secure it, and Shaliber steals it away and finishes off Forger Vulcan.
Fantastic play coming out from the Storm mid laner. StormyRays trying to stay alive, sitting in the heal out of the Ra, but not going to be enough. Keji takes out the enemy support. Still on the chase, comes help from the jungle. Kaeydan's here trying to help things out, but he gets grabbed on the side. Reminisst finds his 4th kill of the contest, and he finally falls down for the first time. 100% kill participation right there, coming out from the SB jungle. Nikwid, interesting play coming out with his wall there, separating himself from the rest of the team. It looked really bad at first, like he trapped himself in, but the map vision coming out from Nikwid is actually really strong. He saw the rotation after the Reminisct kill and walled off himself from the opposition. So what looked to be like a bad play, in all actuality, was a strong, calculated move.
And on the other side, it's kind of the opposite for that Gold Fury pull. What looks like a great play for SoaR, and by Shaliber in particular, really is only a possibility because Strictly Business mishandles that Gold Fury engagement entirely. You just do not have the same damage as Searing Pain early on. The Vulcan ultimate does a lot, but only from a distance. You're not going to be able to find that Gold Fury secure over top of Searing Pain. The door is left open for SoaR to take it. Shaliber executes it perfectly, not only sealing the Gold Fury, but knocking down Forger Vulcan as well. And even though Reminisct does get a return kill onto Kaeydan, Kaedan's not worth a whole lot of gold right now, and Reminisct is.
Nice little ultimate coming out from Forger Vulcan to chase SoaR off of their own buff. Won't say the same about the ultimate from Mr. Teep. It's a little bit too close to be called a zoning ult, and a little bit too far to actually do any damage, so nothing coming out from SB right there. They go for the invade and just sort of scare the opposition away.
No, any ult I miss is a zoning ult. Doesn't matter how close or far away it is. It just denied that particular area
that nobody wanted to be in the first place.
That's because my ult was there.
Okay, all right. I'm seeing the mentality. I'm seeing the thought process.
I zone very well.
You certainly do. You zone out pretty damn well as well.
Only sometimes.
Keji here on the Hunter. Zachsy is just taking advantage. And I mean that just by attitude alone. These players are even right now. 1-0-1, 1-0-0. Nothing really shouting at me as far as itemization or gold is concerned. You can see relatively close the Apollo and the opposition on the Medusa, separated by a couple of hundred gold. But every chance he gets, Zachsy, the Medusa player, is just dashing in there and dealing the damage to the Apollo.
Zachsy definitely one of the more tenured hunters in the Smite console league and has no previous PC experience. He's one of the fabled Xbox natives that we talk so much about, but really definitely has developed very nicely as a player. I teamed with Zachsy pretty early on in his career and definitely had a lot to learn, but a lot of raw talent. And now is where you start to see, you're in another season here. You're in season 4 competitive play. This is the perfect time for you to start taking all that experience that you've learned and really apply it to your gameplay. And I expect to see Zachsy have a pretty big season here.
Zachsy also joined us on the desk at Worlds, actually, so he's seen the game from multiple angles, which is very important. Talking to some PC players specifically as they join us on desks for various outings, it really changes the way that they look at the game once you are able to see it from this perspective. SoaR right now need a different perspective as Forger Vulcan wraps around the side. StormyRays, he might be done before the fight even begins, and he will. Keji finds the last hit while the rest of the team fights on the right side, but with the support down, it's trouble for everybody else. Forger Vulcan gets taken care of. It's a 1-for-1 so far. SoaR still on the chase. Running away is Shaliber. He gets frozen, and he's taken care of. Nikwid puts him down.
MedievalDoc in a bad spot. Shell popped for Strictly Business. Reminisct still looking for the plays. Actually gets pulled underneath that tower and picked up by MedievalDoc. The Typhoon knocks up 2. Mr. Teep has no purification beads, courtesy of Zachsy's Petrify earlier. Keji gonna put a little bit of damage into the oppositional hunter, but 2 for 2 rather. Even fight there between SB and SoaR.
I really like the fact that Kaeydan held onto his ultimate for that long. Unfortunately for him in the squad, nothing really came of it, but thinking right there, I really thought they could have at least found 1 kill, so I'm not sure if I what I don't like about that, but I feel like I enjoy the fact that he held on to that ultimate. I just wish something came of it.
Yeah, not able to pick up any kills there. And with SB so grouped on Shaliber, maybe it could have been used to heal in that scenario, but maybe not. Shaliber's purification was already down. He was already very low, and Nikwid was coming in hot, basically looking for the raw. The problem there for SoaR, and what's really been looked to be the problem early on for this team, has been StormyRays is just on a different page than everyone else. He was so far forward, looking for the knockup, which immediately gets canceled out by the Serenade by Keji, and then Reminisst and Keji just 2v1 StormyRays. There's not a whole lot he can do about it. The rest of SoaR completely cut off from that fight. StormyRays just needs to be a little bit more mindful of his initiations and where the rest of his team is before he goes in.
Yeah, I think that one was just poor play coming out from Stormy. I think earlier on you could point to maybe some miscommunication, maybe the team wasn't listening to him. That one, unfortunately, you can't run at the Apollo with animals. He's gonna mez you out every single time. That's one of those interactions that you just have to have a handle on. Unfortunately, doesn't really work out this time for StormyRays over there on the support all along Shen.
But MedievalDoc does make his first real impact in this game, at least in that rotation.
Big ultimate.
With a big ult onto Forger Vulcan, secures that kill with the Petrify for Zachsy, and then the knock-up in the root underneath the tower to secure the kill onto Reminisst as well, which is really what makes that fight go in SoaR's favor totally, because of the fact that Reminisst, again, has been worth so much gold, has been doing so much work in this game. If you can keep putting him in the ground, even if he picks up kills, assists, you're going to be able to get some of that golden experience back and start working your way back into the game.
Even with all that said, SB, it's a tie game for all intents and purposes here, folks, but just to split hairs for a moment, SB has the slight lead, even with SoaR winning on that team fight. Is that still the 500 first blood bounty?
I mean, basically, that's the only difference, right? I mean, this game is even, like you mentioned.
This is a tie game.
This is a tie game.
Yeah.
There's really no discernible leads. Slight level leads in the jungle and solo for SB, but outside of that, I mean, Zachsy's got a slight level lead as a Shaliber, so there's your level differential. Basically, it's completely even.
Reminisct lurking, trying to find somebody out of position. Nobody seems to be taking the bait, however. SoaR do have a vision here as they venture towards the Gold Fury. Reminisct not going to get the surprise on anybody. As I said, they have a ward right next to the mid lane, so everybody knows. But this is a good play. Strictly Business split up SoaR into two sections, but nobody really goes that deep to really make an impact. Reminisct goes a little bit too deep by himself. Finds himself about half HP. Nikwid get a counter ward over there, and here comes a big freeze. There comes a bigger ultimate, and there's Mr. Teep over the top. Kaeydan finishes things off onto Forger Vulcan. Jumping forward as Keji's gonna get grabbed, picked up, flip-flopped, and killed. Kaeydan again with the good stuff. Double kill for the jungler.
2 for 0 in SoaR's favor. Now the Gold Fury started up. No ultimates on either side are available. Nikwid walks forward into 5, hits the freeze, but he's immediately gonna get aggressed on by SoaR. No mobility for this Guardian out of the solo lane. He's gonna fall. 3 dead now for SB. The knockup almost stole that away from SoaR. That was close. But in the end, SoaR not only get those 3 kills, but the Gold Fury as well. The game no longer even. 2,600 gold in SoaR's favor.
And 18 minutes to 2,600 gold is not an absorbent lead, but it's certainly the beginning of something interesting. And SoaR aren't going to stop there yet. They're looking for 500 more in the form of this crumbling tower. They're going to pick it up. No problem there for the red team as they descend back into their jungle. They're going to go for the Fire Demon Portal Guy Giant Boss Man.
You could also say Portal Demon. It's a little bit easier.
And it's stolen by SB. Big play coming out from Reminisct. Just barely misses the Gold Fury on the left side, but picks up the objective on the right.
Also known as the Portal Demon on the right-hand side. Definitely, if SoaR's going to lose one of those objectives, I'm sure they'd rather lose the Portal Demon in that scenario. Worth a little bit of gold, but not as much as the Gold Fury.
Which is interesting because when you look at the Portal Demon, the impact seems really big in the sense that you get this portal from base and you're going to be able to come right on back. Cute little interaction there with Medieval. But at the end of the day, it's just not as impactful as the Gold Fury so far.
Not at this stage in the game. Now, later game, I think that SB would rather steal away the Portal Demon than the Gold Fury because it gives you so much pressure around the Fire Giant. But at 19 minutes, you aren't really pulling a Fire Giant anyways, especially not with how close this game is. It doesn't really provide you with nearly as much as far as the utility outside of the golden experience that you gain.
I mean, it's also the fact, which is relatively small. You're looking at 500. You're looking at 500 experience, maybe 100 or so gold per player here with the takedown of the portal demon. And when it comes down to it, it's really like, even in the later games, we've seen the PC League go on now. The Smite Pro League is in the second week, and they play 3 days a week. And we keep seeing the portal demon just not really utilized, I think, the way a lot of players expected.
It's still early in the season, and I think that we have seen a pretty heavy prioritization of that portal demon around the time where Fire Giant becomes relevant, but it's just so risky to be fighting around that Fire Giant for anything, because if you lose a team fight there, not only do you potentially lose the portal demon, but you lose the Fire Giant as well, and we all know how potent that buff can be.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Fire Giant alone can win some games. We've seen it happen. 8-8, read the kills. Very even game here at the 20-minute mark. SoaR slightly in the lead with about 2,000 gold above their opposition. That's enough to start being aggressive here. And that's what we're going to see. Well, Reminisst winds up getting away. But that's what we're going to see here on the right side of the map, is that SoaR are going to really look to dig their feet in and find something large. Nickwood drops the wall, and he's going to get tagged a little bit by Caliber damage.
Nickwood has very little physical protection. He's got no physical protection, actually, outside of Mark of the Vanguard. So Kaeydan should be the one trying to poke him down, not necessarily Caliber, because Nickwood has plenty of magical protection, the Pestilence, as well as that Voidstone taunt onto Forger Vulcan. The snipe gonna hit, but it doesn't do any damage at all. Forger Vulcan will be able to walk away pretty easily from those two ultimates.
And there's the follow-up.
So that idea for SoaR has worked really, really well. It's been StormyRays taunting Forger Vulcan into a snipe from Caliber, but now is the time to stop doing that, because he's finished off Pestilence, he's got plenty of magical defense now, and it's gonna just not do enough damage like we saw right there.
Zachsy right here using his character's wave clear to his advantage, goes for the burst play, finds the ultimate. Sanctuary is going to be activated for Keji. Now we see our Medusa on the wrong side of the tower. Zachsy dealing with the wave. Is he going to dash in? Is he looking for it? No. Zachsy playing it safe. We'll go ahead and back. The opponent Hunter does as well. Got to keep an eye on where Apollo's going to go. He'll head back to lane.
Does have that across the sky, so if he needs to be here for this engagement on the right-hand side, he could be, but with SoaR backing up, he's happy to go and try and save his solo tower there. Like you mentioned, Zachsy just playing so aggressive in this lane, and that's exactly what you want to do against Apollo, is keep him from split pushing, keep him from rotating around the map. If you can poke him out consistently, he's not going to be able to make that global impact.
And that's exactly what we've seen the Medusa do. This time around, though, Apollo sticking in lane, right side of the map, different story. 3-on-2 here. SoaR with the numbers advantage. Here comes number 4 as Kaeydan shows up. Nickwood is knocked up. He's slowed. He's dashed through. There's a wall to help out just a little bit, but it doesn't look to be enough. He's turning around, looking for the freeze, Ryan. There's a meditation, and immediately, as soon as that med came out, Strictly Business said, nope.
We're done. That's about it.
Got it.
We got the meditation out. We got a couple ultimates there as well. Caliber just a little bit late on that ultimate. Could have hit Reminisct as well, but only ends up hitting Nickwood, who, again, just has too much magical protection to really be worried about it.
Keep an eye on the Apollo on the left side. Likely to get a tier 1 tower. In fact, he definitely will. Here on the right side, different story for SoaR. And mid lane, we see Medusa heading for the mid tower. Right now, it's respondable. If Strictly Business gets to the mid tower like Geb is heading there, he might be able to stop Zachsy. But this Apollo, this is kind of a misplay, I think, on Zachsy's part.
Medieval does have teleport. That should really be his job to teleport over there and make sure this tower doesn't get cleaned up, if that's the call. Instead, it's going to be SoaR trying to push in and take this fight on the right-hand side, but all they get is 500 gold. Meanwhile, for the team at least, SB got 2,000 gold for the team.
Zachsy doesn't even pick up the mid lane tower. Mr. Teep with the close range Vulcan ultimate, not a lot of damage, but everybody grouped up is going to go ahead and take it right there. Still continuing on with the onslaught is SoaR, finally retreating off of the tier 2 tower on the right side. I think they felt that it was getting a little bit forced.
Zachsy still trying to get this middle tier 2. Keji has to use his purification beads because of that pin from StormyRays. Tier 2 tower does fall, so SoaR even it up in terms of towers take it in that push, but it took them considerably longer than it did for Keji to snag those two on the left.
Exactly, and you know, when it comes down to it, like I said, Zachsy made the rotation into the mid lane at the same time that the Apollo is right around the closer to his tower than the enemies, and so in my opinion, it kind of looks like Zachsy just wound up in the wrong lane. Should Zachsy have been there to defend? Because he certainly wasn't a part of that team fight on the right side.
I don't have a problem with Zachsy rotating the middle lane because that's the standard play for hunters. Whenever your team is fighting in the solo side, you rotate to middle so that you can either push that, rotate over to the fight, or go back to your lane if necessary. I think SoaR just didn't make a decision quickly enough to really make that whole push worth for them. If they tell Medieval to teleport over to the left-hand side and stop that tier 2 push, great. Then you could probably continue that push on the right-hand side a little bit longer. Just a little bit too hesitant with their decision-making, it seemed like to me.
So more of a team call than just the individual playmaking?
Yeah, in any sort of situation like that where you're fighting on one side and someone's pushing on the left, that isn't an individual call, that's always a team call. Whoever's your shot caller needs to be the one to tell you who is dictating what's happening at that stage. That when you're grouped up, every call, there's no individual calls anymore outside of team fights. Like, you have to understand where your damage is going and all that kind of stuff, but even that, it's the macro game once you start grouping up.
Keji right here looks like he's making his own decisions, and the only decision he wants to make is, I'm going to take that tower, which is honestly exactly what an Apollo needs to be thinking. Double towers on the left-hand side taken while the enemy fights a team fight that amounts in nothing. One tier 1 tower taken on the right side, well, honestly, nobody does anything. People are just farming up the jungle while the Apollo's doing work. Double stun coming out from the ultimate out of the gap. Big damage coming out from Mr. Teep, and a great wall puts it down. Double kill, 2 kills for Strictly Business so far. Reminisst picks up 1 after the Hunter, and that's going to open up the window for the Gold Fury. Nikwit out here to play zone duty, and Medieval's going to be walled in. He finally finds the jump out.
Just an amazing wall by Nikwit. The blink cataclysm from Forger Vulcan directly into the Vulcan ultimate, but the wall is what keeps both Shaliber and Zachsy in there. Keji comes crashing down, nicely timed from him as well. And as a result, Gold Fury goes the way of Strictly Business. Tier 1 tower in middle as well. SoaR just don't have enough damage to stop SB from this siege.
Really not, and if they want to get away, they're not going to be allowed to. Nice little setup coming up from Reminisst, still having a fantastic game. 10 out of 11 kills on the board for Strictly Business. Reminisst has been involved in huge play coming out from the jungler. Shell starts up to mitigate any sort of defense. SoaR want to stand on the mid tower. Here comes a taunt out of StormyRays, but the Phoenix still alive, 25%, still being focused by the Vulcan player. Knock him, not good enough. Kaeydan gets the kill on the Nikwit, but trading out the solo lane for a Phoenix, that's fine. A solo lane and a Hunter and a mid? How do you feel about that one?
Fire Giant is the call here, I think, for SoaR. Shaliber trying to keep Forger Vulcan from backing, though they may need Shaliber's damage on this Fire Giant to make sure it goes their way. Reminisst has stolen away an objective before in this game. I think that SoaR could be a little bit nervous about that, though with how much damage Zachsy is going to be able to do to an objective at this stage, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Forger Vulcan comes rolling in, no rollout. He's going to be a free kill here for SoaR.
He's standing there, gets a nice 4-man knockup, and the Fire Giant kills him, but Zachsy will get credit for the kill. TP coming inwards, and it's just a member of the team. Reminisst is here, 25% on the objective. Reminisst stole the Portal Demon last time around, and SoaR realized that that's the case, so they're going to focus him. Here comes the whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and Reminisst is going to watch as Medieval steals his life.
Just a little bit too greedy from Strictly Business to push that middle Phoenix. They had the advantage. They get a ton of golden experience from pushing down the Gold Fury in both middle towers, and all they had to do was back up. Instead, they continue to push on. Yes, they get the middle Phoenix, but they lose 4 out of 5 members. No, they lose all 5 members. It's spread out a little bit, so not quite a clean deicide, but they lose the Fire Giant as well, and now SoaR has all 5 members with that Fire Giant buff, and they're going to be able to knock down these remaining tier 2 towers fairly easily.
Easy is really the word that I was going to say, and the team's relatively even, and then SB off to a little bit of a lead. SoaR snatch it back with a team fight, and now that they have the Fire Giant significantly in the lead, I would say, despite the fact that the gold and the kills are very similar, that Fire Giant puts you up. How much theoretical gold do you think it counts as? About
4,000. 4,000 to 5,000 is how much it really is worth, because not only is it the power and the objective push, but the sustain it brings you. And that's the thing that SB is really lacking in their draft that SoaR has to their advantage, is that sustain, not only from the Raw, but now with the Fire Giant buff as well. It's going to be difficult for SB to really punch through that amount of sustain. It's really relying on Mr. Teep to find a strong ultimate.
And a lot of these Vulcan ultimates have been relatively short range, limiting the damage that Vulcan can export. Don't forget, the ultimate coming out of Vulcan does more damage the further away he is when he launches it. So if you're up close and personal, it's just not doing the job. Ultimate coming out from the SoaR and Guardian, tossing Keji onto the tower, dealing damage to the Apollo. Medieval gets the pancake flip as well. Keji trying to fight back into it, trying to lifesteal, and he finds the damage. Big crit.
3 crits in a row, turn it around for Keji. I thought he might get soloed there by Medieval.
Me too.
But instead, Keji's the one walking back to base and not being forced back.
You know, it's funny. Ooh, blink forward from Reminisst. That'll get the knock up, the feather step. Can't find the kill, however. Shaliber gets stunned out, and there's the last hit coming out of Forger Vulcan. StormyRays trying to find an exit. There's a big knock up. Finds a little bit of health thanks to the ult, but a second one, and Reminisst finds his 6th kill of the game.
Oh, Keji trying to do it again to Kaeydan on this right-hand side. Kaeydan going in, forces out the Aegis from Keji, but Tier 2 tower is still standing for now. Just a rookie mistake there from Shaliber.
Yeah.
You run away with your team. Every time. You always run away with your team. And he doesn't. He walks down the lane by himself and gets picked off because of it.
Left side, Kaeydan's gonna get frozen. Beads out of it, trying to protect Phoenix, but ooh, just barely getting out of there. He will be safe for the moment, but the Phoenix won't be. Left side Phoenix falls down. Strictly Business get credit for it, despite the fact that SoaR are the one that previously took away the Gold Fury, or Fire Giant, excuse me. Keji here, right side,
Finally
will get the Tier 2 tower. You know, Keji right there when he got the kill on the TheMedievalDoc, it looked like he was gonna get soloed. And so I'm commentating the play-by-play, and for a brief, like half a second, I look down to see what lifesteal items he has, because I'm going to call if he's going to fight for the lifesteal or not. And before I get to look up, and we're talking 0.2 of a second, right? Just the eyeballs go down, and then the player dies. I didn't see the 3 successive Audacity crits.
Yeah.
That's the power of Apollo.
It was 1,200 damage. I mean, it was just an insane amount out of nowhere, basically. MedievalDoc, pretty tanky, though. Doesn't have any dedicated physical protection. That's really been the problem for him. He's only got the Spirit's Robe that's providing any sort of physical protection, and it looks to be a Mantle of Discord next. No High of the Nemean Lion, no, Breastplate of Valor, nothing like that.
Yeah, the Nemean line might be a little bit much, but I'd like to see at least the BOV. I mean, that's a...
Especially with how fed Reminisst was early on, you'd really expect him to get some physical protection to deal with any potential ganks from Reminisst. He got blown up by a pullback in, by a gravity surge whenever SB was pushing that middle Tier 2 tower. A little curious to not see any dedicated physical protection.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Breastplate of Valor, very strong item, ton of CDR on it, and just good old-fashioned physical protection. Yeah, very, very curious to see a lack of that. Heartword online, interesting. I guess because the Sav is on the support, you see the Heartword on the solo Guardian, so it feels like his job is to deal with the magical damage.
Yeah, Heartword, you just want one on your team all the time.
Of
basically,
course,
the
right,
HP 5, the spread out magical protection, and if StormyRays is saying, "Hey, I need Bulwark to really be in the front line. Can you pick up Heartword?" I've got no problem with that at all. Again, I just think that particularly right now, I mean, you just want that High to the Nemean Lion because so few hunters are going for big lifesteal items. Aussie's good whenever you get the passive up for lifesteal, but outside of that, it's not really relevant enough to deal with how much damage you're putting out, especially with Wind Demon and Deathbringer. Keji's going to end up doing significantly more damage to himself than he'd be lifestealing off of the TheMedievalDoc if he were to go for something like Nemean Lion.
So definitely got to keep an eye on that. Zachsy gets his ward taken out. Nickwood here with the bubble around him. Magi's Blessing is an item that we don't see purchased often, but by no means is it the greatest item in the world, but I think it is a little bit underpurchased against heavy CC teams. I like the selection here for the Ymir player. One, because Ymir is so easily taken, just like that Fire Giant.
So quickly, and Keji, again, this Apollo doing so much work. Reminisct blinks in, finds a knock-up onto Stormy. Nice Petrify from Zachsy, but he's walled off yet again by Nickwood. Knocked up, exploded. Zachsy going to be the first to fall.
And here's the follow-up coming out from Strictly Business, heading towards the middle lane. TheMedievalDoc gonna be brought down to half HP and brought down even further, frozen in the air, and then forced into the ground. Forger Vulcan with the kill right there. The support Geb 2, 5, and 9. Strictly Business, last time they visited this Phoenix, got into a lot of trouble. This time, they pick it up absolutely no problem.
And that's because they've got no pressure from SoaR whatsoever. It's only 5v3.
Well, it's a
Kaeydan
freeze.
looking for something, but not going to be able to find that win siphon. Phoenix already falls down. It's strictly business. They're strictly looking for the Titan.
Ultimate coming out of the Vulcan, launching onto the Titan. And that's going to be game one, strictly business. Wind up taking the game here over SoaR, 84,000 to 75K. Very close as far as the kills are concerned, but that's about it.
I mean, the game was pretty close overall. A little bit back and forth. SoaR wins a team fight. They get the Gold Fury. SB gets wins a team fight. They get a Phoenix. You know, a little bit back and forth. It seems to me that SB's a little bit better at finding these players out of position, picking them off the map. Whereas SoaR, they should be grouping up. Their team fight looked to be pretty strong. There was one 5-on-5 team fight that game, and SoaR won it hands down. If I'm SoaR, that's what I'm saying. We're drafting a team fight composition, and we are not going for these little skirmishes. We are team fighting the entire time.
What I like